So, not so recently, I set out on a quest. I wanted to get down to some answers regarding Creality, some of their business practices, and mostly some terrible decisions made on the production of the Ender 3 V3 SE. I wrote a letter to Creality as an email that heavily focused on many of the poor decisions they made regarding the V3 SE. I reached out to a few bigger and more respected 3D printing YouTube creators that I personally respect to look over my letter, to give feedback on it to increase the level of professionalism, the likelihood of it getting a reply, and overall just the exposure of the letter. However, only one of them got back to me, so I have a lot of thanks to give to Michael at Teaching Tech. He viewed and commented on a few of the revisions of the letter and heavily helped it get to its final version that was sent, that you'll see today. But that is where his help ended, but he's not obligated to help me in any way, of course. After the final version was made, it took me forever to send the letter due to waiting, hopefully, for more replies in support of this action. And after that didn't happen, it was mostly due to nervousness and overall working on other projects in general. But eventually the letter did get sent. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any email to send the letter to Creality in any other form than their support email. So that was its destination. And while I get some answers to some things, it wasn't as satisfying as I would have liked. But let's talk about it. I will try to remember to include a link to the letter in the description, but essentially it starts with a bit about me and how I am of any value to the company and relate to and use the products talked about in the letter. It also includes expressions of anger and frustration, as well as pointing out that I have public videos documenting my experience with the V3 SE printer. Then I talk about how I would like to ask some questions that I'm sure the community would also like to know some answers to. After that, it leads into a numbered and bulleted list along with often a point or two to be made with the questions. And after the list, it leads to a close with a few paragraphs of me talking to the company directly as a whole, expressing again anger, frustration, but additionally disappointment this time. All while calling out their borderline false advertising of the Ender 3 V3 SE, which was made so by their poor choice after choice after choice. The final paragraph states that I do not intend for this letter to be a hate letter, despite the heavy negative energy, but I wanted it to be a conversation about improving the brand and overall just doing better for its customers, especially the ones that are new to the hobby, and that they lead in with making affordably priced and often marketed as beginner-friendly machines, when they can be anything but for a beginner in many cases, at least easy to use. So now let's talk about the replies. I mentioned in the letter that I hope that this message could be forwarded to the proper people to get proper answers to more of the questions, since I could only send the letter to the support team from what I could find at the time. This did not happen to the best of my knowledge. The letter was sent on the 3rd of December of last year. I got a reply on the 9th saying, "Dear customer, due to the recent increase in inquiries, we are working overtime to respond. Sorry to have kept you waiting." Reading this over again, this is actually a more respectful than usual message when you get this kind of message from support or any support. But at the same time, it would probably reduce your support load if you actually did a little better quality control on the printers. And additionally, if you didn't make so many different models as well, and you focused on making an actual one good, which they somewhat have in other things, but that's besides the point. There's lots of other ones that they just kind of they keep selling, but they just let fall by the wayside. But my main point here is that I think I typically get the "we are overloaded" message when I send any support message to Creality, but that's only based on vague memories really. It's been a while because I just don't even want to fix my machine. "We are sorry for the problems you have encountered in using this printer. This is not the kind of reply that you really want when you're sending this kind of message, so it's not really a great start. There is still room for improvement in the functions of the printer. We have been working hard to improve it. We are happy to accept corrections and suggestions. Please give us time and confidence." I've tried so many times to give suggestions on how to fix this machine, and I think by far I am not the only one, at least especially in the broader scope of all of the company's machines and the company as a whole. Really, this statement just seems like a straight up lie. When I give suggestions, they are usually dodged, or at most I get the "we will forward this suggestion to the proper team," or something like that, which as a customer, I never really know if that happens or if the team really ever looks at the suggestion, even if it is actually sent to them. Then there's the statement to have confidence in them. It might be different looking from the inside out, from the inside of the company to the outside, which of course you are the customer support representative, so it's kind of your job to say this sort of thing. But as a customer looking from the outside in, you have not given me any reason to give confidence or have confidence in your company. I try my best to not be a blind follower of anything, and I am far from it in this situation. So you need to make some changes for the better if I'm actually going to give you any more of my faith that I previously had for your company. We recommend using the PEI platform board. Wait, that's how that actually was worded? I did not internalize this while reading through this like the bunch of fucking times for editing. We recommend using the PEI platform board for printing. So they mean the print bed, I assume. This statement kind of infuriates me from what I can tell based on the results of my printer and even a bunch of other users on the Ender 3 V3 SE subreddit. It seems like the basic PEI platform that comes with the printer is the only print surface that they tested the machine with. Either that or they just decided that since the machine at least works with that one, it's good enough. I can't even get this machine to work with a G10 Creality build plate, which is a great surface to use under most circumstances, but just because the plate isn't a textured surface, it just doesn't work. Am I the only person that thinks a printer isn't actually functional if it can only work with a textured PEI build plate? The Ender 3 V3 SE is now open source. Now, this refers to a couple statements or questions that I made while writing the letter before the resources were actually given to make the printer open source. But really, they should have just provided this info on release. To me, it seems like there's often issues or features that they could add or fix and that people want, even just to the firmware, not even like a physical change. But the company just decides not to push these changes or work to make these changes or even add them as an option. For instance, the auto bed leveling has a lot of things working against it, so I really don't know if their code sucks or if there's just enough physical things impeding it that to make it not work right. My guess has always been that it's just both, so I wonder if even someone's community-made code will even be enough to fix this machine. And I'm based on how stingy. Well, I won't say that. It's been kind of disappointing because Creality, I think, can make this a decent machine if they just like roll out a bunch of standoffs that are actually the proper different sizes for at least 3 different sizes, because there are 3 different surface levels for where the bed needs to sit, but they just won't do it. And the community does now have a chance to fix the code, at least, but I just don't think that anyone with the proper skills is actually going to bother. At least that's how it's seeming so far. Under normal circumstances, the printer will automatically level. If you encounter problems during the leveling process, you can send us a video of the failure to help you check and provide technical support. I have spent so long working with their customer support that I just really don't think that they understand how blind the company is. First of all, using a textured bed is only a band-aid solution. It may work at that moment with that bed, but you're stuck with that kind of build surface and the first layer finish that is, just kind of comes with the bed. So it's not a real solution. I've tried so many other solutions, including getting a replacement bracket for my CR Touch because it was slightly bent, but no matter what, it just seems like their auto bed leveling is just bad. It plain just doesn't work when it doesn't have the heavy assistance from a PEI textured build plate. That texturing provides so much grip and so much room for error that it just compensates so easily. So while I can go around in circles arguing about these statements and how technically the printer gets fixed, but it's not fixed enough to actually work in other ways, I'm just not going to bother, and I'm going to keep moving on to keep this video in a timely manner. We provide the firmware version on the official site. They provide a link. Regarding the firmware, we have asked the technical staff to answer sincerely, and they don't have any name attached or anything. But I wouldn't share it either way to prevent actually risking attacking an employee in particular and their employment. The workers overall aren't to blame here, at least not the support staff. I'm not sure of what point they are trying to address here. My guess is that it is something to do with one of my questions regarding the 0.6 firmware update, because while it implemented and improved manual leveling features, in my instance of the actual automatic leveling, it just seemed to get worse than it already was. Overall, this reply was short and for the most part unfulfilling. It seems like the letter wasn't taken very seriously. I don't know if that was because it was sent to the customer support rather than somewhere else in the company, or if this would have been the general response throughout the company either way. But it seems like they just generally brushed me off like they do anytime I make a suggestion or criticism, which obviously conflicts with one of their main statements in this reply. But something else that was a little weird was that I got another reply in the same thread a day later that was unprompted by me in any way. I hadn't replied or anything. And unfortunately, the second reply basically adds nothing of value to our instance here. And it reads, "Dear customer, number 1, please provide relevant fault videos. Is there a problem with printing?" Oh my god. SE is open source and can be modified by yourself if necessary. Again, that was my bad for taking so long to get the message sent, and those comments and questions were then outdated and obsolete, and I am sorry for that. But at the same time, I do not personally have the skills to modify the code, at least effectively, and quite frankly, I have enough things to learn about currently that I don't need to add even more, especially just to fix this stinky machine that I should have returned when I had the chance. Where does the loose base screw refer to? Please provide a fault video, ? Honestly, this is a little ridiculous that they don't know what this is talking about. This is a common issue that I got recommended to check so many times, it's not even funny. Usually it's by the community, but I'm pretty sure that I've been recommended to check these screws a couple times at least by even internal Creality customer support. I can understand not knowing some parts based on how people describe them, but I'm pretty sure I called them bed screws originally, which is the best official name I know to call them. And I'm pretty sure that, this person changed how I worded the phrase in their reply. I stated before, knowing what the bed screws are is kind of important as a customer support rep. But this next statement from them is where things get real whacked up. Does the bracket refer to the gantry or something else? Please provide relevant fault videos, ? Oh my god, with the videos. I never even mentioned the word bracket once in my letter. I mentioned specifically the bed gantry and even put a slash by it, also calling it the chassis as well. So honestly, I'm a little worried about how qualified this rep actually is at this point. And their final statement is, if there is a problem with leveling, can you provide leveling data to check whether the point is abnormal? Sincerely, and once again, there is no name. I don't know if this comes down to formatting or something due to the signature being an image, but this message seems like even more of a brush off than the first one. They disregarded the purpose of the letter entirely.
It's like misunderstand the whole situation, speedrun any percent.
And just even more directly treat it as a support ticket now, which is really weird considering the first message, which was a little more on topic. I don't know if these were written by different representatives or if one was an automatic reply. I guess maybe one was from a different section of the company. But overall, this first instance of replies is just strange and, of course, not very helpful for figuring out why Creality released the V3 SE the way they did, with the many flaws and all. Additionally, I was just pissed off at the time because they basically brushed off the letter twice. So I honestly didn't even want to talk to them anymore because it's like, what's the point, But eventually I got the message saying something along the lines of, "We haven't heard from you in a few days. If you don't interact on this thread soon, we're going to mark your issue as resolved." And that kind of put a fire under me because it's definitely not resolved. So I sat down and thought about how to respond for a little while and eventually sent another email. I'll paraphrase this message. Basically, I say that the message sent was not meant to be a support ticket message. The support email was just the only place I could find to actually contact the company in general. I tried communicating with the Creality support team for a long time trying to fix the machine, but it just seemed useless. This last message was meant to be feedback for the company to ask questions and allow them to explain some things of why things are the way they are within the company. Then I tried to explain my issues and observations as best I could as replies to the questions they asked me, in the second reply, and the things they needed clarification on. And lastly, I mentioned that I would still appreciate if my previous statements got forwarded to the proper people to get them answered, and I got this in reply from them. Dear customer, thank you for contacting Creality customer service. Due to the peak ordering period, we received a lot of emails and inquiries, resulting in a backlog of customer information. 1. We do not provide technical support for customers who have modified the machine themselves. What? I think this refers to one of the clarification replies that I sent, stating something like, I tried to fix the bed standoffs, I used a different type of build plate, and I don't want to put thread lock on the screws, which seems like it would be the only actual fix for keeping them from loosening on every frickin' print the machine makes, and even just the basic motions that it does in general. So right off the bat, it's just like, fuck off.
It's like, f*** off, right? Just fuck off.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Why don't you just go drink a nice cold glass of fuck off?
Your machine performs like dog shit, and you want me to undo the things that get it ever so slightly closer to being an actual functioning product. At this point, I think I'm still justified to get some compensation for how garbage this machine is. I should have gotten a full refund and returned this thing a while ago, but I took a big risk and thought I could fix it like I could with the Ender 3 V2, my very first printer I ever got. But this printer is so bad, it needs some serious changes to be anything more than the biggest paperweight and pile of e-waste I have ever seen. I'm sorry to the viewers, but that statement was a true use of the word triggering. Frickin' tell me to frickin' undo my fixes, get things frickin' actually work properly. 2. Change back to the original machine, clean the nozzle, and re-level the platform plate, and try to print a random model. If it is abnormal, please provide a fault video. The problem cannot be accurately located by looking at the language description alone. Thank you for your cooperation, sincerely. This is something that I just actually realized rereading this as I'm making this video. I have a script here, but this is completely off script. They cannot locate the issue in my words because there are so many issues. That's another issue, and they're treating this like a support frickin' message when this is not what this is. I've tried to say this and clarify it in the plainest words possible, but you're just being an ignorant piece of fucking something. Long story short, I did not cooperate and I gave up because I am just dumbfounded by this response. I essentially stated that I didn't want to make any major alterations to the machine, and they still say that what I've done is too much. Quite frankly, I'm inclined to agree with the last statement I said. I have done too much. I should not have had to do all these things to even attempt to get this machine to work with any print surface other than textured PEI. And the fact that it is supposed to be a worry-free auto-leveling printer means that it should have been able to handle that either way. But here we are over a year later, and I still have this printer sitting in my room not being able to basically do anything. It's been forever since I put the original plate back on, but maybe I could print on that, but then that defeats the purpose of why I bought it. But I'll talk about that in a bit. Some people may not have watched any of my other videos about this printer, so you may be wondering why I'm so bent on getting a smoother build surface to work with this printer. This all stemmed because I wanted to 3D print guitar picks. Ignoring the obvious statements about how illogical it is, the Bamboo Studio Slicer, and by extension Orca Slicer as well, had weird code that made it so that the picks were significantly less durable when printed on my P1P. So I went looking for other solutions because I thought there was none after posting on a few forums about that issue. So I had seen that the Ender 3 V3 SE had just been released, and on paper it sounded like it was perfect for my needs. And Creality's Slicer seemed to be a clone or fork of Cura, which handles the model much better. So that's why I bought this machine, again, to make guitar picks. So having a gritty texture on one side of a guitar pick is not exactly desirable for that purpose. So I needed to use a smoother build surface like G10 Creality, which in most circumstances would be the perfect surface to use. But because the machine is so incapable, it seems like there's no other fix other than to overhaul the firmware and change how the printer fundamentally works from how the bed rests out of the box. Otherwise, I have not seen a proper solution to make this machine work other than have some major overhaul options, which honestly, I don't even want to do. So here's another message directly to Creality. To say I am disappointed is an understatement. The emotions I feel about this printer, your company, and looking back on this situation again fills me with so many indescribable negative emotions. It's almost sickening. This is not the first letter of reprimandment made to you, and it probably won't be the last from people that have opened their eyes to your practices and the way you actively go about your business unless you actually make a change. The one major representative I got to help me with this letter, Teaching Tech, shares my views about your company. He no longer reviews or supports your machines in any way because you just don't actually seem to care about your customers, despite all the claims you make rebuttaling that statement. But of course, you still make money and get other fool YouTubers to give positive reviews of your machines. I don't know if you actively give their machines that you send to these other major reviewers for free a better quality inspection, but what seems to get sent to a lot of real customers comparatively who actually give you their money is oftentimes not up to the standards that are shown in the review videos. Now, I'm not going to completely burn this bridge like Teaching Tech, mainly because the $220 I spent on this machine can still go to much better use in other projects. So if you'll accept my return after presenting this long-standing evidence of quality assurance failure, I wouldn't mind getting my money back at all. At this point, honestly, I wouldn't even mind exchanging my machine for some other one. I'm also not opposed to working with you and talking about some of your other machines. Unfortunately, there would always be the caveat that I may have gotten special treatment if you were to work with me. Recently, I saw a video from a 3D printing YouTuber with over 1 million subscribers say that your Bamboo Labs A1 mini clone was actually good, and your AMS clone would actually seem to be an improvement in some quality of life ways over the original from Bamboo Labs. But of course, since he is a major profile for possible advertising for you guys, it's hard to take his word for it, whether it be because he got better treatment from you guys or otherwise. I had to look up his profile name because I didn't remember while I was writing, and this was made by Frankly Built in a video about trying to find alternatives to Bamboo Labs since Bamboo Labs made that stupid freaking terms of service update. So despite my long-standing issues with your company in general that goes back 5 years ago to even my very first printer that I ever bought, the Ender 3 V2, I'm still willing to give you guys another chance. I may just be bound for more unjust punishment from you guys, but hey, I'm here to suffer or something, so just bring it on. Let's hope someone from the company is actually seeing this video in the first place. So for the rest of you who are normal viewers, I hope you enjoyed or found any use from this video. I don't know what would be the best method of sharing this video for a Creality to actually see it. My best guess is linking it to them on a social media site publicly. I'm probably going to get 1 million people defending Creality despite the company's frequent disappointments shown by many other users, but still share this video if you feel the same way that I do about Creality. This video can't make an impact unless people actually see it. If you did think this video had some good points, please leave a like. Let me know about your experiences with Creality, good or bad. Just don't be a snooty dickwad about it if you're planning to be a white knight for Creality. I don't make any regular income, so look in the description for ways that you can support me and also benefit from it as well. I am normally a 3D printing and music channel. I review 3D printers when I can afford them, talk about issues around the ones I own, and try to tackle even larger issues if I feel passionate enough about it, like the one you've seen today. Additionally, I talk about guitar, drums, and occasionally bass gear, review the gear within those things, and sometimes talk about subjects around those as well. And finally, I just do whatever I want occasionally, like review random things or stream Call of Duty Zombies, which I did recently, but it's going to be farther away by the time you see this. So if any of that sounds good, please consider subscribing. That's all I have to say for now. So I'm going to say bye-bye.